the blessing behind your tears. Grab somebody and just tell somebody, there's a blessing that's coming behind my tears. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. The story is told of an angel that was sent to earth in order to bring back the most precious thing that could be found on earth. So the angel flew down, searching from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth, one end to the earth to the other end of the earth. Even he flew into the depths of the sea and ocean. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, he picked up a golden nugget. But he thought, that's not good enough for the king. So he found, ladies and gentlemen, a flawless pearl. But that wasn't it, and that wasn't enough. So the angel kept searching through, and finally, as the angel was searching through and through, he heard a sob. It was a man who was on his knees pouring out his heart before God. It was a man who was pouring out his heart for help and forgiveness. The angel said to himself, oh, that's it. I found it. The angel held out his hands under that man's face and caught one of the tears that was flowing down his face. And as he flew triumphantly back to heaven, he presented the tear to the Father, proclaiming that the tear is the most precious thing on earth. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we see tears all the time. We see people with tears coming down their eyes. Possibly you've had your moments of tears, and we see tears being shed so often that sometimes we overlook how precious sometimes they are. Tears have meaning. Tears have a voice. Tears speaks volume. Tears that flows from the face of a person may be overlooked by others as somebody just crying. Tears, ladies and gentlemen, can be overlooked, but I want to tell you that there is one place that I know that do not shun your tears. Heaven do not overlook your tears. I want to just tell you that the psalmist says something amazing, Sister Baker, about tears, that the psalmist says that God puts our tears in bottles. He puts them, the tears, thou tears has been put into bottom, and they are not in thy books. Ladies and gentlemen, the songwriter puts it this way, that tears are a language only God can understand. And you see, ladies and gentlemen, when we open God's precious and holy inspired word, you find a message from every person, for every area of your life, no matter what you and what your responsibilities may be. Maybe nobody, ladies and gentlemen, may not understand what the tears is all about, but ladies and gentlemen, when I read the Bible and open up God's word, you find a message from every person for every area of life, no matter what your responsibility may be, no matter what the test may be before, no matter how great you need to, maybe your needs may be, there is no human life experience that is covered up in God's word. It's, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take for just a few moments because I want to deal with this subject of tears because, ladies and gentlemen, there are, and when it comes to times in our life, there will come a time in our life when we will not be able to hold back the tears, even if you don't even want to have them, because, ladies and gentlemen, tears are from your eyes that are flowing down. I want to emphasize again that when we see tears are flowing from someone's face, when you feel the tears that are streaming down your cheek, it is a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, of the struggles and the sorrows that is a part of this life. No matter what your age is, no matter what your financial status may be, no matter how popular you may find yourself or unpopular, how powerful, how weak you are, many Christians, many believers have been told, ladies and gentlemen, that it's wrong for us as Christians shedding tears. And I know that there are some folks that'll tell you, suck it up, don't be trying to show your emotion. But ladies and gentlemen, you ain't lived through nothing, or you are the person who are perpetrating. But if you live through something and go through something, some stuff you can't suck it out, you gotta let it out. Look at your neighbor and say, that's why some folks are mean and impassioned. There are some folks are simple, don't have no sympathetic. Listen here, ladies and gentlemen, there are some folks who will get all bent out of shape when they see tears. And when I see tears, I don't get alarmed when I see tears. I've learned now, I done found out that the older I get, the more emotional that I get. And I find out that tears is a part of the washing of my soul. Tell somebody, you better get your soul washed out. And if you want your soul washed out, you gotta just wash it out through your tears. Don't get me excited before time. I know some people will tell you, you just suck it up, something wrong. But I want to tell you, real Christians have some tears. It only reminds us of the difficulties that we're living in. And ladies and gentlemen, when a person is mean, they don't understand why you cry. When a person is low down, they don't understand why you cry. When a person is in sympathy and don't have no sympathy nor empathy, they don't understand why you cry. But is anybody in here that understand when you see tears, how many of you all don't get alarmed because it just tells you of the stuff that you made out of? And how many of y'all who've in here had to cry sometime? And if you have not had your moment of your little snot rag, don't put it up yet, because you will have some times in your life that you won't have nothing to say. You just have to roll it out. Look at your neighbor and say, roll it out, roll it out. I don't want to pastor a church that don't tell folks to cry. Don't cry. I don't want to pastor a church that tell people don't feel. You telling me that I got my hands in the fire and I ain't hurting. The devil is a liar. Can I talk to you? Tell somebody it ain't wrong to cry. Look at somebody else, because they didn't want you to say that. Tell them it ain't nothing wrong with the cry, because listen here, ain't no need of trying to hold back what's got your back against the wall. Tell somebody, ain't no need of trying to hold back. And I want to tell you that before this worship service begins and when this worship service ends, some of y'all gonna start sitting here thinking about everything that the Lord, and everybody is not crying because they catching hell. Some folks are crying about the hell they didn't catch. Tell somebody, that's why I'm crying. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to let you know that tears are not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of courage. It is not even a sign of lack of courage. Paul says that we sorrow not as one who have no hope. He didn't say nothing about tears. And I don't want you to think that all tears that have been shed is caused by sorrow and heartaches and breakups over booze. Tell your neighbor, all crying is not over booze. That's female, because boo could be a lady too, you know. All crying is not over stuff that has gone through. Multitude of tears has been shed out of joy. And where are the folk that had just started crying because the joy of the Lord is your strength? Somebody ought to point up here and say, preach every bit of it, Pastor. It is because there are tears of joy. And where's some of the folks that have had tears of joy? I saw some of them tears of joy in this room this morning while we was praising the Lord. Where are the folks that right now that's got some tears of joy? And tell somebody, don't try to misinterpret. And listen here, don't you try to sit up in here and try to interpret people's tears, because it's an unknown language. And only God understands. I'm going to preach it. Now, what is a tear? A tear is basically water, salt, along with a little calcium and with other little chemicals to help lubricate the eye. Some is used of what they known as tears in a bottle, or the re-wetting of the eyes. We usually think of tears a part of our physical frame, but in reality, I think of tears, ladies and gentlemen, a little different, because, ladies and gentlemen, when we look at it, man is the only creature that has been able to cry and laugh at the same time. Y'all missed it. I said man is the only creature that is able to cry on one hand and cry and laugh on the other. You done did it so many times. Man too is the only one that can shed tears in a sense of expressing emotions. Now, animals have tears in their gland ducts, in their glands, and their glands and their ducts, but they don't use it to express their soul, because I believe that the tears are far more to do with the soul than that which has something that's going on in my body. More tears are shed from the painful experiences that cuts the soul and that those that affect the body. The tears is more than the chemicals that helps lubricates the eyes, ladies and gentlemen. The tears is the deepest longing of the heart and longing of a human heart in the chemistry of the situation. It is the coming to the end. It is the listen here, it's the coming to the end of one's deepest motion. What is tears? It is the coming to the end of a deep emotion. It's the coming to the end of deep emotion. It's the coming to the end of a deep, I know why stuff ain't end, because you ain't never come to the end of it. Tears are the coming to the end of a deep feeling in your heart. Tears are, ladies and gentlemen, is the portrait of our deep longing. Lord, help me preach it all today. Tears are, shedding tears is a particular unique human method of expressing emotion. And let me just say it like this. Tears are like a valve, a release 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 valve. Can I keep ringing the doorbell? A release valve. It's the same thing that you got on the top of your hot water heater. They tell me, and I know that on top of the hot water heater is a pop-off valve, and that pop-off valve is made there so when the pressure get built up on the inside of the tank, before the tank blow up, the pop-off goes out. And that's what God said said, I put the tears in your life so before you blow up, I gotta let you release that out. Look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, don't you blow up, but let it out. Let it out. High five somebody and say, let it out. Let it out. Let it out. Holler back at me and say, preach it all, Pastor. I need you to remember, and I want you to hear me real good because I got to preach it all today. Because I need you to remember something. God will not rebuke us for the tears that we shed as we walk through the ruin of this broken world. Why I say that is because God sees our tears. Why I say that is because God cares about what the tears represent. If they didn't mean nothing, if tears didn't mean nothing, God could have left them out of it when he made you. And I want to let you know something. He didn't only let you have the tears just to keep your eyes lubricated. He wanted you to let you know that every tear that falls down to the ground, I'm counting them. So if God is a God that can number hairs in your head, I'm sure that God can keep up with drops. 1, 2, 3, 4. I said, if God knows the number of hairs on your head, I know that he done kept up with your drops. Tell somebody, God keeps up with every tear that flows. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to come with me because Psalm 126 is unfolding before our very eyes. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I need to lay this out before you because Psalm 120 through Psalms 134, just remember those blocks of Psalms. We've got Psalm 120 and through 134. Now, from Psalms 120 to Psalms 134, those Psalms are called songs of degrees. Now, it may not mean nothing to you, but when you read Psalms 120 through Psalm 134, they are called songs of degrees. You'll keep up with that because these are songs that were sung by the pilgrims who was traveling to Jerusalem to keep whatever particular festival or feast day or some festival or feast day that was on the religious calendar of Israel. And there were stations along the way as they were going up to Jerusalem. There were stations that was along the way where the pilgrims could stop and rest and reflect and refresh while they was there. And while they were sitting there on their way to Jerusalem, they struck up one of the songs of degrees as they were sitting there pausing and resting and stopping and reflecting and refreshing, and they began to sing one of the songs of degrees as they began this before they got to Jerusalem. Wherever they had come, there was a station on their way. They would go to certain station and rest there, and while they were there thinking about the goodness of God, and really they were thinking about where they had come from and where they were going, and where they had come from and where they were going. They were thinking about where they had come from and where were they going. They were thinking about where they come from and where. I wonder if anybody been thinking about where you come from and where you're going, where you come from and where you're going. Tell somebody one of these songs of degrees are stop up in your life. I want you to know that while they were there, Deacon Jackson, while they were there, they were saying one of these songs of worship, Psalm 100. And so while they were there on their way, this particular day, they struck up from Psalms 126. They come across that song. And it was, ladies and gentlemen, one of the songs of the Greek. It was a special song to the children of Israel because it reminded them of the Lord's past work in their lives, in the life of the nation, and his promise to carry out the work unto their future. I want us to consider that, ladies and gentlemen, right here in Psalms 126, all 6 verses is a precious psalm because there's some powerful lessons that you and I can glean from these verses this morning. And I want us to see what the Lord is talking to us. And I want us to understand the blessing behind your tears, because number one, I want you to see the praise behind your tears. Let the church say praise behind your tears. Listen to how they opens up. When the Lord turned the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dream, and then our mouth was filled with laughter and our tongues with singing, and they sing they among the heathen. The Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and whereof we are glad. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to see the praise, because anytime people see your tears, they need to know that it's not only a pain behind your period, it's a praise behind your period. And ladies and gentlemen, praise speaks of deliverance, because I didn't make it up. Check out verse number 1. It said, when the Lord turned the captivity of Zion. As the Israelites began this hymn of praise, they did so by reminding of the great grace of God. They remembered how they had been oppressed and how they had been captive by their enemies. They remembered how the enemy had did some harm to them. They remembered all of the wonderful things. They remembered the great power of God, how the Lord delivered them, that they praised him for the day that he set them free and brought them back into their homeland. How many of y'all can thank God for the day that the Lord delivered your soul? You know, a lot of folks don't shout now over deliverance. People only shout now on new cars and new houses and new rings and new jobs. But ladies and gentlemen, where is the crowd that shout if it had not been for the Lord on my side? Where are the folks that right now that's got a reason to thank God for what was meant to kill you? God turned around and made it be your development. Tell somebody, it didn't destroy me. It developed me into the woman. And I want to let you know, I'm looking at men and women who've been through some of the roughest things in their life. But tell somebody, I don't even look like what I've been through. Tell somebody, if you only knew why I was praising it, because I'm able to say, when the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, LeCarry, not only that praise speaks of deliverance, but also that praise that these people are singing speaks of delight, because we, look what it says in verse number 1, we were like them that dreamed. And then was our mouth filled with laughter and our tongues with singing. And then said among the heathen, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us. They couldn't hardly believe what had happened to them. They were amazed at the grace and the love and the power of their God. They were amazed at the grace and the love and the power of their God. They were amazed at the grace and the love and the power of God. They felt like people that was living a dream. And ladies and gentlemen, every now and then I feel like I'm living a dream, because what the devil thought he was going to kill me with, I'm still here. Tell somebody, it feels like a dream, because I know if God hadn't have did it, I wouldn't have been able to make it. Why don't you high five your neighbor and tell your neighbor, we were like them that dream. Stephanie, they felt like people who were living a dream. It was too good to be true. And have you ever been in your life where you said, this looked like this just too good to be true? You know what? I want you to know that, ladies and gentlemen, I just don't want you to think that every time you say favor ain't fair, that's not the right word to say. Never use favor ain't fair no more, because after I tell you why you don't need to say favor ain't fair, so when you tell somebody favor ain't fair, you telling yourself it ain't fair that it's happening to you. I'm telling you it is fair, because ain't nobody but God that can take a nobody like you and raise you up. And then what was meant to kill you, ain't nobody but God turn around and prepare a table before your enemy. And tell your neighbor, your next blessing you won't even have to fight for. The devil is gonna run just when you get there. Look at your neighbor and tell somebody it don't. But when they finally drawed on them, they began to think about all the experiences. I don't know about y'all, but I'm going to have a spasmodic fit in this house today. They were filled with joy. They lifted up their hearts in praise. And you're exactly right. We should not come to church, not one Sunday. And I'm not going to come in church, not a single Sunday, acting like I'm a cheerleader when I'm a preacher. Because I don't have to get up in here and say, give me a J, and give me an E, and give me an S. When folks just got up out of God's bed, when folks just rolled up in here in God's car, sitting up in here with God's clothes on, sitting up in here with God's blood running through your veins, sitting up in here got God's shoes on, and you sitting up in here acting like your mouth is on lockjaw. Tell somebody, pastor ain't got to pump me up. I wish somebody would just pop up right quick. 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 I dare you to take that seatbelt off and pop up right quick. Tell somebody, I ain't got to be pumped up. For when I think of the goodness of Jesus, hey! Tell your neighbor, I got a mask on, but my mouth ain't muzzled. I got a mask on, but my mouth ain't muzzled. Hey, 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 hey. Tell somebody, hey, hey, hey. I want to ask one thing. Let the redeemed say so. Let the redeemed say so. Let the folks that done caught hell and got out of it say so. Let the folks that lost a loved one and got out of it. Hey, hey. Verse 3, verse 3, verse 3, verse 3, verse 3, verse 3. Put it up here, Johnson, for me. Verse 3, the Lord has done for us. I thought I'd get somebody to shout on this verse. Tell somebody the only reason why we made it. The Lord has done great things for us. Tell somebody I'm praising him about my deliverance, but I'm also praising him about the delight. The Lord has done great things for us. And can I tell you that all this year long, and we don't have but a few more days left in 2022, and we'll be in 2023. Can I get you to sign a contract that beginning today, you won't let nobody stop your praise? Look at your neighbor and say, beginning today, the devil ain't gonna stop my praise. So can I get you to get up and turn around and say, I'm going to start practicing today. The Lord. Put it back up. Okay, thank you, Chanel. I want you to notice something. That the Lord has done great things for us. But I want you to notice that not only, Stephanie, they praise the Lord for deliverance, because when they praise speaks of deliverance and praise speaks of delight. But can I tell you what else praise speaks of? Praise speaks of a decision, because notice it says right there, and the Lord has done great things for us and we are glad. Tell somebody, and we are glad. Wherefore we are glad. And do I have that crowd in here that can say, wherefore we are glad? Because I want you to know, the Lord told me if 25 of you jump up right quick and go crazy, because the Lord said the next blessing that you're getting ready to get, it's going to bless you so great that you won't even know what you're going to even do with the money, because God said, wherefore we are glad. You won't even know what you're going to do with the blessing, and wherefore we are glad. High five somebody and tell somebody, I wonder, are you glad for me? And ladies and gentlemen, you might as well get used to being glad for folks, because your ungladness is not going to stop God's blessing on them. You might as well start being glad for folks, because the more you sit here and be unglad for them, God said, I'm going to drive you crazy, because every time you think they got stuck, you better start and tell somebody, I'm glad for you. I'm glad for you. Tell 5 people, I'm glad for you, because if I get glad for you, God will make some stuff happen for me. Before you can get glad, you got to start being glad for other folks. I'm glad for Reg over here. I want God to do everything for him. I want him to bless him. Because I feel like when I ride, you gonna ride. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are glad. Tell somebody, the Lord has done great things for Siloam, and Siloam is glad. The Lord has done great things for Siloam, and Siloam is glad. The Lord has done great things for Siloam, and Siloam is glad. Tell somebody, we are glad. Out of all the hell we've been through, we are glad. Out of the pain we've been through, we are glad. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so. And somebody ought to say, I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Can I preach it all, Mother Copeland? I got two more things I need to say, Deacon Davis. Then I'm going to let y'all get back to the house. But one day, Minister Smith, one day a farmer donkey, old donkey had fell into a well. And the animal was crying hours as the farmer tried to get and figure out how Stephanie he was going to get that old donkey out the well. And finally, he decided that he was probably going to try to take that donkey out of his misery. He felt like that he couldn't do nothing. And so the farmer asked his neighbors that if they would come over and try to help cover the well up, because he couldn't get the donkey out. He said, I might as well just, since I can't retrieve him, I just cover him up. And so he got the neighbors over. All of them grabbed shovels and began to shovel dirt into the well. And a few of the shovel loads later, the farmer looked down in the well. He saw something, and something had astonished him. It astonished the old farmer. As he looked down in the well, he saw that every shovel of dirt that hit the back of the donkey, he would and step up on it. Every time they shovel dirt in them, the old donkey would shake it off and step up on it. And this farmer began to look, and every time they would, oh Lord, how much this, throw dirt into the well, the old donkey would shake it off and step up on it. And ladies and gentlemen, so to his amaze, that ladies and gentlemen, that donkey had shook off so much dirt and stepped upon it until every time that he shook it off and stepped upon it, he was coming up even more higher and higher. Now the moral of this story is that life is going to shovel some dirt on you. People are going to try to shovel some dirt on you. People are going to put some lies on you. People are going to talk about you. But every time them lies and dirt hit your back, I wish somebody said, I got to stand up and show you how it's going to look. I wish somebody would stand up and show them how it's going to look. Every time somebody says something about you, shake it off and step up on it. When people don't want you to have nothing, shake it off and step up on it. Tell somebody, watch me shake it off and step back on it. And somebody ought to go across the aisles and high five your neighbor and tell your neighbor everything the devil. And look at your neighbor and tell somebody everything that happened to me, that happened to me that was good, God did it. Everything that happened to me that's good, God did it. High five somebody and tell them that everything. Tell somebody there's a praise behind my tears. But ladies and gentlemen, tell somebody else this: there's a prayer behind my tears. I didn't make it up. Verse number 4 says, turn again our captivity, O Lord. As the screens in the South, I'm finna get happy. The Message translation says this is what blowed me out. When I read this verse in the Message translation, now the King James Version says, turn again our captivity, O Lord. The screens is in the South. But when I read the Message translation, it says, and now God, do it again. Bring rain on our drought-stricken lives. As these pilgrimage, Deacon Davis pondered their path as they was deliberating on their deliverance, they lifted up their voices in prayer to God. And listen to what their prayers, and I believe that some of you all need to start praying this way. Turn again our captivity. So can I also tell you how that word is translated? Is really talking about to restore our fortune. The captivity as had ended, and the Jews was praying for the blessings of the Lord on the lives of those who were not home yet, but they were left in Babylon. You know, they prayed just as the spring rain would fail, that fell in the southern screens and the flood waters, that God would also deliver others from their captivity and restore their homeland. They had some burdens to see others delivered as they had been and had called on the Lord to see them through. They wanted others that was captive to enjoy the deliverance that they had experienced. And so listen to how they prayed. Turn again our captivity. I want to slow it down, because when I think of tears that flows in our world today, I think of tears that needs to be flowed down our cheeks. Ladies and gentlemen, there's some crying that we got to do. And you got to do it, and your prayer ought to be like these. Even though there was a multitude of tears being shedded for every few minutes concerning some serious matters and events, there are eyes that are dry. Can I tell you that maybe the reason why we don't see a lot of folks saved in church today is the church too dry-eyed? Maybe the church so dry-eyed. We got too many dried-eyed Christians. They so dried out till they don't even, their eyes don't even moist up. They've lost the moist. Maybe the reason why we ain't seen revival take place in the life of church is because too many folks sit in church with dry eyes. But if you got to start thinking about this prayer like, turn again our captivity. Well, you said, well, Pastor Carter, what kind of tears should we be? What kind of tears should the church be crying about? Tears should be shed over the spiritual condition of people. I'm concerned more after COVID, what has happened to some of my church members. I remember before COVID, they came to church better than they're doing now. So I've got some tears over the spiritual condition that there is no joy in people's life. They've lost their thrill for their salvation. They don't even attend church no more. They would rather go fishing than to come to the Lord's house for 90 minutes and give God praise for the 900,000 days that God done gave to turn again out of captivity. Well, what should the church be crying about? We ought to be crying about, and we should have tears be shed for lost loved ones. Let me just say this 1 minute. I said for lost loved one. I don't understand how you can, as a parent, can come to church every Sunday and don't cry about your children. That you know you raised them in the church. Your children was raised in the church. You brought them up in the church. They was in every Easter play. Now you sitting in here dry-eyed. You ought to be crying and tears ought to be coming down your face saying, Lord, save my child. I'm not my smoking dope, getting high, drinking and partying. And you sitting in here dry-eyed, worrying about what I got when you already jacked up. You ought to be not worried about my children. You ought to be concerned. You ought to be crying about your own children. Some of you don't even know where they were last night. But you need to be saying, God, bring them to church. So one Sunday, you ought to be sitting in here. Let's start practicing this prayer this morning. Let's say it together. Turn again, turn again, turn again, turn again, turn again. Our captivity. Well, what other tears? I got some more tears that we ought to be crying. Some of you all ought to start praying tears of forgiveness towards folks that you sitting in church holding stuff against them. You sitting in here dry-eyed when you ought to stop allowing all these grudges to harbor and fester in your heart, and you sitting in here dry-eyed. There ought to be some tears in your heart, that there ought to be some times in your life when you care about someone else and stop always concerned, because this is not as your world turn. There's other folks that's in your world, and you need to stop sitting around here thinking that you are the only somebody that everybody ought to care for, but you don't care for nobody else. You ought to pray for others. I wonder, did everybody leave when I got on this subject? Looked like the church done got to 3 folks in the building. Looked like ain't nobody in the sanctuary. Everybody's going out the parking lot screaming up Roosevelt Highway. Listen to the cars spinning off out there. Look at the folks that done got mad and left the church, because they telling me that I ought to have some tears. And you got to have some tears of forgiveness. And you can't sit in church and don't know nothing about forgiveness. And you can't be a real Christian if you don't forgive. And I'm not telling you to forgive the folks that like you, but I'm talking about forgiving somebody that you got a serious problem with. And you sitting in here dried-eyed. What happened to you? You lost your feelings. Do you ask the devil that when I go to church on Sunday, give me a shot of Novocaine so I don't feel what pastor preaching? I let him preach it, but I'll sit there dry and look at him. Well, I'm going to look at you too. Look at your neighbor and say, you better start crying about some stuff. And what your prayer ought to be when you go home today, turn again our captivity. I didn't know I had a problem with certain folks until I saw them. I said, I didn't know I had a problem with some folks until I had to sit on the seat with them. I didn't know I had no problem with certain folks until I saw them ride up in that car. Jerry, is the mic working? Is the mic, Jerry, is the mic working? Because they don't hear. They don't hear. Don't you sit here like, I've had some problems with a few folks. And I had problem with them because I said I didn't do nothing to them. I've had problem with some folks because I said I didn't warrant you to treat me this way. I ain't said nothing to you. I haven't even said a word about you. I don't even know where you going there with that. So what I did is I let that stuff get in my heart. And then I'm sitting up in here saying, no more change holding me. My soul is resting. You right, it is resting. Lay hands on yourself and say, Lord, let me cry again. Let me get emotional again. Come on. Let me turn again. I'm finna get ready to go, guys. I want you all to know that, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know why the Lord put this sermon in my heart today for y'all and me. I said, I don't know why this sermon, out of everything that I could have preached today, why this sermon today? Ask your neighbor and say, let's figure it out. I tell you what, don't try to figure it out for others. Just know that if you hear, God intended on you hearing it. 1, 2, 3, come on, 4. Tell somebody it's a praise behind my tears. There's a prayer behind my tears. But Siloam, good morning. Thank y'all for coming. May the Lord bless you real good. Lord, I got one more thing that I want to tell you, that not only, Lord, that there is a praise behind my tears, Lord, and there's a prayer behind my tears, but I gotta tell y'all that there is a promise behind my tears. Check out verse 5. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth weeping and crying shall bear precious seed and doubtless come again with rejoicing. Oh, yes, Lord. I don't know about y'all, but tell somebody, say, neighbor, I got a feeling that God is getting ready to turn your tears into joy. I want you to know this promise of weeping, and God told me to tell you he's getting ready to restore everything, every difficulty. Let the church say amen. Well, he that soweth in tears shall reap in joy. I don't know about y'all, but can you grab somebody and tell somebody, say, neighbor, I got a feeling your prime days are getting ready to be rewarded. Let the church say amen. I want you to know, I want to tell you one more thing, how much God cares about your tears. I heard God said, I'm going to wipe every tear from your eye. Can I tell y'all one thing? We will never hurt no more. We will never feel in the New Jerusalem. We will never fall. We will never sin in the New Jerusalem. We will never hate. We will never lose a loved one in the New Jerusalem. We will never worry. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. We will never hurt in our feeling. Let the church say amen. We will never hear another unkind word in that New Jerusalem. We will never hear a name out of mess. We will never hear about war in the New Jerusalem. We will never shake no more. We will never grow old, Lord. Yeah, we will never be concerned about time. We will never receive no more bad news in the New Jerusalem. Why don't you high five somebody and say, neighbor, I got a feeling that if you sow in tears, you're gonna reap in joy. Why don't you stand on your feet and say, neighbor, I got good news to tell you. Weeping may endure. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy. I know you was blessed today from the word, and I want to give you an opportunity and extend the invitation to discipleship. And you know, we usually call that the doors of the Lord's church is open. I want to let you know that salvation is a simple plan. We always just call it the ABC plan. A is for acknowledge, B is believe, C, confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that God has raised Christ from the dead, and thou shalt be saved. I would love to be your pastor and let you be able to connect with the SCI family. We're going to tell you how some ways you can connect with us and be a part of this glorious family called the SCI.
If you just made that decision, we are so excited. You just made the best decision of your life. Our E-team wants to help you take the next steps in your Christian walk. Text SAVED or JOIN to 404-548-8009. And a member of our eCampus team will be in contact with you. Welcome to the family.